They designed a flawless machine, small towns where travelers vanished into cold, steel cells. Judges who had never seen a black man they couldn't convict. Officers who planted evidence as effortlessly as they wrote tickets. A system so seamless, so lucrative, that it operated unchecked for 2 whole decades. But every machine has a flaw. It can't distinguish between prey and predator. So when they pulled over Darius Carter on a deserted road in Mill Creek, they assumed they had just caught their next victim. Instead, they had arrested their executioner. Because Darius had something none of their previous targets possessed, a brother with the power to dismantle their machine from the highest office in American justice. Sometimes, corruption doesn't need a hero. Sometimes, it just takes the wrong man in handcuffs. Before we dive back in, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from today. And if these stories keep you hooked, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow's special episode, it's one you definitely don't want to miss. Darius Carter tapped his fingers against the leather-wrapped steering wheel of his Mercedes S-Class, replaying the triumph of his pitch meeting in his mind. The late afternoon sun cast long, golden shadows across the empty highway as he navigated unfamiliar roads. His GPS had suggested this shortcut through the small town of Mill Creek, shaving 30 minutes off his drive home. The sleek, black vehicle glided effortlessly along the winding road, its polished exterior catching the warm glow of sunset. Darius adjusted his Italian silk tie, a subtle power move, one that had served him well in the boardroom. At 42, he had mastered the art of commanding attention. But something about this quiet, unassuming town made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Up ahead, a faded wooden sign emerged from the trees. "Welcome to Mill Creek." The paint was chipping, the edges curled. Population: 15,000. One of those places where everyone knew everyone else's business, and outsiders stuck out like ink stains on white linen. Darius glanced at his fuel gauge. A quarter tank. Enough to get home, but closer than he liked. A small gas station appeared on the right, its weathered sign boasting fuel prices from what seemed like a decade ago. He signaled and pulled in, parking beside one of the 4 aging pumps. The second he stepped out, he felt it. A shift in the air. 2 elderly men, seated on wooden chairs outside the station's convenience store, stopped mid-conversation. A woman hurriedly finished loading groceries into her SUV and drove off, without looking back. Darius adjusted his tailored suit jacket, keeping his expression neutral as he approached the pump. Inside, the clerk, a thin man with a patchy beard, watched him closely as he stepped to the counter. "Pump 4, Darius said, slipping his platinum card onto the counter. The clerk took it, hesitating just a second too long. "You just passin' through?" His tone carried an edge, the kind that suggested the question wasn't just small talk. "Yes, sir. Just need to fuel up, then I'll be on my way." Darius kept his voice smooth, professional, the same tone he used to handle difficult clients. The clerk swiped the card and handed it back without making eye contact. "Pump's ready." Back outside, as he filled his tank, Darius could feel it unseen eyes, watching. The gas pump clicked rhythmically, the sound loud in the eerie silence. Across the street, a police cruiser sat parked. Its occupants weren't just idly chatting, they were studying him. His phone buzzed. A message from his brother, Jordan. "How'd the meeting go?" Darius smirked, typing back. "Knocked it out of the park. Taking a shortcut home. This town gives me weird vibes, though." Jordan's reply came instantly. "Stay safe, little brother. Call if you need anything." If only he knew how prophetic those words would be. As Darius pulled out of the station, his eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. The cruiser slid smoothly into traffic behind him. Not passing. Not turning. Just following. He kept his speed exact, hands firm at 10 and 2 on the wheel. The patrol car stayed at a calculated distance, like a shark tracking its prey. Mill Creek's main street stretched ahead, lined with old brick buildings, their faded awnings drooping over empty storefronts. Pedestrians on the sidewalk glanced up at his car, then quickly looked away. It felt like a powder keg waiting for a spark. 5 minutes of this tense, silent pursuit. Then, red and blue lights erupted behind him. Darius felt his pulse quicken, but his face remained calm. With practiced ease, he signaled and pulled onto the shoulder. He had been through this before. The key was to stay composed. Stay professional. Two officers stepped out. The taller one approached the window, his nameplate reading Langley. His partner hung back, hand resting too comfortably on his holster. License and registration. No greeting. No pleasantries. Darius moved slowly, keeping his hands visible. "May I ask why I'm being pulled over, Officer Langley?" His voice remained steady. "Your right taillight's out," Langley said, lips curling slightly, as if he enjoyed saying it. "That's impossible." Darius had his car serviced just last week. But arguing wasn't an option. He handed over his documents, noting how Langley's partner, Decker, had circled to inspect the back of the vehicle. "Step out of the car, sir." Langley's hand shifted toward his belt. Darius exhaled slowly. "Officer, I checked all my lights this morning. They were working perfectly." I said, "Step out of the car." This time, the command wasn't a request. He moved with deliberate slowness, the gravel crunching under his expensive leather shoes as he stepped out. "I'd like to see this broken taillight for myself." Langley's expression hardened. Hands against the vehicle. Feet back. Darius clenched his jaw. This wasn't about a taillight. The rough pat-down was too familiar. And then, Decker approached, holding up a small, plastic baggie in his gloved hand. "Look what I found in the trunk, partner." Darius's stomach turned ice cold. "That's not mine," he said firmly, his mind already racing. "I demand to see your body cam footage of this search. You had no probable cause, and I never gave consent to open my trunk." Langley chuckled. A slow, knowing laugh. "Guys like you," he shook his head, "always think you're above the law." And just like that, the machine did what it was built to do.